it's all those conversations are really meaningful between the three of us because we've all known each other for quite a long time, and it's really those kind of conversations, whether it be about a movie or not, I enjoy those. Kelton enjoy those, and Harrison as well. That we just benefit from it. We kind of walk away as better people, just being reminded about what's really good in life, but also, different, a different perspective on stuff. And it's, I don't know. I think after podcast, I really think about that segment for quite a few days after about what we talked about, and I don't know. It's beneficial for what we just hear from each other. It's really cool. But that's our podcast. Sure. All of our segments that we have. We have a couple of them here and there, but those are at least the most consistent sections that we have in our podcast.
Okay. And how do you guys come up with what movie to watch? Like, what's your approach to what specific movies you guys are gonna banter about or go about, and how does that come up?
Well, first it started off with Harrison's favorite movies. When we first started, we first watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That was a great movie.
Super good, and that I didn't realize it, and so he's sharing all these great movies that he loves and stuff, and it started at that. But then we mentioned, because Avengers Endgame just finished, was just released, and so like, let's just hop on the MCU and just go through that. And it was just 23 movies, and so we figured we could start with that, and then every so often we've taken breaks, and like I've chosen a movie or two, and Kelton has chosen a few movies and stuff, but for the majority, it's Harrison's. He's chosen a lot of those movies because they're just trying to get the ball rolling. But it's all, I don't know, kind of just like choose and pick. We're kind of speculating about maybe having some of our listeners request us to watch the movies to see if
I like that.
They want to see us, what our take is on it, and hear the banter that we have about it. But
yeah, I was gonna say it'd be really cool to have some people give you guys some like movies that are maybe not so mainstream. And then like what I love about your guys' podcast is you have the whole non-spoiler section. So you can listen and you're like, oh, what movie are they talking about? And possibly pause it and go watch that movie if you have the time, and then revisit the podcast so you guys can kind of relate and be a part of it in your own kind of section. So that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as of right now, like, it's been really fun because we each have had some of our favorite movies just that we've watched over the years, and we'll bring it up. It's like, hey, have you like checked out like Edge of Tomorrow or like Interstellar? And so it's a lot of fun just to watch some of our friends check out these movies that we love so much. And so basically that's what we've done so far, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. We've been speculating that for quite a long time. Couple of weeks now, like we should really have people like request movies and so they can see our reactions and stuff, because I think part of the enjoyment of movies is that you get to watch your friend's reaction since you've already seen it in their first time. It's kind of fun seeing their like jaw drop or just laugh at jokes that you like. That's how I enjoy movies that way too.
I like how you guys gave a movie away for people to answer like what is it, a survey? Is that what you guys did? You want to go into how you came up with that? Which is a really good marketing idea.
Yeah, so when we started, we were like, okay, what's like the first milestone or like achievement we want to reach? It's like when we reach 1,000 downloads, like that's going to be a big deal. And like we started our podcast like either the end of August or beginning of September of last year. And we're like, let's get to 1,000 downloads by the end of the year. And we were like, way ambitious with our goal. Didn't even come close. We were like halfway there by then. I mean, which was like, I mean, that's still pretty good. I mean, we were grateful for everyone who was downloading the podcast, but after like 6 months of doing it, we reached that goal. So we were like, hey, we want to appreciate everybody who is listening to our podcast. So we gave away 2 movies to all of our listeners who took a survey to appreciate what they do for us. It was a lot of fun. I'd never been so excited to give something to someone.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was
I was like,
let's see who's going to get it,
Well, it's
Yeah,
kind of
we did like a survey and did like a drawing in that episode. Cade like rolled a dice and whatever number it was the person who won, and I was like so anxious. Like I'd never had so much fun giving something away before.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's a little bit of a kind of live proof to show like, oh, my listeners are really interacting with the podcast, and we actually have some organic listeners, not just some bots and stuff that some of these podcasts have. You know what I mean? So you guys got some actual listeners coming up and participating, and obviously they're getting something in return, like actual physical something, not just like a good time listening to you guys, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, I think
For sure.
the moment where I realized that people were actually listening to what we were putting out was what I don't know if it was like the third or fourth episode that we put out, but we realized that there was like, correct me if I'm wrong, there was like 3 people in Germany, and there was another guy in like
Australia or
something. Like that. It just blew my mind. They downloaded our podcast, and I was like, really? How did you find us?
Do you even speak our language? But
What host site
download
do
our
you guys
podcast.
use? Okay, Podbean. So it gives you all the statistics and stuff like that shows where the listeners are and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was sweet. I remember when we first started out, like third or fourth episode in, some dude in India went and downloaded all our shows, and so he was like the #1 listener at the time. I was like, no way, this is so cool. I was like so pumped, which is like one of 5 people listening at the time, but it was such a big deal to me at the time. It was sweet. It was a ton of fun. I mean, it still is.
What kind of goals do you guys have set, or have you guys set any actual goals besides, you did the whole 1,000 downloads by an X amount of time, but what's like the big picture goal for the podcast? What do you guys want it to be? What's the dream?
Yeah, this is actually something we just talked about like a week ago, maybe. First and foremost, like the idea behind Fall In and like that last segment where you talk about the meanings and messages, that came from when I was in school. I've since dropped out because I got married and had to go to work more. But when I was in film school, and when all my professors, they like were super focused on what they call the theory of film, that like a film as a work of art has, whether it's like a blockbuster that's just a cash grab, like whatever they are, they're made with some type of belief system, and that by watching it, your beliefs are influenced. So that's like the whole idea behind Fallen. So the idea is, of course, to like share that with as many people as we can, because there genuinely have been moments where the 3 of us talk in that last segment, and like I walk away having overcome a really like difficult struggle I'd been going through, or like really some positive impact on my life. So that's like has primarily been the first goal, is to be able to share like what I feel like are super positive messages with the world. But more like physical goal, or like more trackable goals, is like we want to get to doing 4 episodes a week. We have 2 a week right now. One of them that like I'm particularly excited about, we call it Binge the Cringe, where we'd have people like submit like horrible movies that have bad ratings, and then like we have to watch it, and then one of us is like the person who has to be convinced, and then we like flip a coin, and one person has to defend the movie and one person has to attack it, and so it's like a debate where the 2 people have to try and convince the third member if it was good or bad.
That's pretty good. I like that.
So like that's one that I think about frequently that I want to get to. So yeah, I mean, like ultimately the goal would be, of course, to be able to do this and quit my job, but I think those are goals that everybody has, to be able to do what they love instead of just what they have to.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of different goals as well, and we've talked about eventually like getting some really nice podcast equipment to really get like, obviously, out of using like our cheap microphones and whatnot, but we've also like wanted to get merchandise and be able to like send it out to people who kind of fund us and help us out to kind of get started. And so we've looked into like getting merchandise and just getting better sound equipment. But yeah, we just hope to be able to kind of focus. We'll just get this more bigger than it is now. And like Harrison said, just kind of pump out a ton of episodes and really get people involved.
Nice. What is there any specific? So there's 3 of you guys, and I know not everybody's always on the same page. I started my podcast, like I started podcasting previously on an older show that no longer exists called The Enlightened Heathens, with two of my buddies, and we honestly just talked about a bunch of nonsense, bantered back and forth. We could never really pick a subject. It was like pop culture and just trash talking, really. But I learned with three people, it's hard to stay on track as far as what everybody wants for the podcast. Everybody's thinking of something different. You guys are a little different in that you have a specific subject you guys want to talk about, which is the movie. But do you guys have any issues sometimes being on the same page, or any disagreements and stuff like that kind of make it difficult for you guys to get everything together?
I think our biggest problem is just schedules. That's one of the biggest ones, because it's, you know, three different people and trying to come all together and stuff. And so a lot of times, you know, when we first started, it was at Harrison's house for our first episode, and then we started coming over to my place because I had a table I can set up, and it was inside, and we could be a little more quiet. Because I think in that first episode you can hear some crickets chirping because we were outside.
We were outside in the
backyard. But it was kind of difficult trying to pick a day, and so we were like every Thursday we were doing it, and sometimes we had to like postpone it and stuff. But we've maybe picking movies. We've had a couple of struggles just figuring out, like, be on the same page with like what you guys expect, our expectations or something like that. But since that last week that we've talked about, we've really been able to really, you know, nail some things down of like how we can all be on the same page, any things that we need to clear up and stuff like that. It's gotten easier, I'll say that. But I mean, things will come up here and there and stuff. But I think what the good thing is that we're all willing to accommodate, try to keep the podcast going and stuff, because we've all benefited from it. So it's, you know, we're all collectively have the same idea. It's kind of like we're slowly coming into one. But
all right, I got to speak up now. No, I actually don't have any beef. I really think we got to give credit to Harrison for a lot of this, because he came up with the idea, but he's also been the one who has done all of the editing, uploading, figuring out like websites, and so big thanks to Harrison. He's done the majority of what's needed for this podcast. But it's good, like Kate and Harrison mentioned, we had a good episode and talk like a couple weeks ago, like a week or two, and we were able to kind of get on the same page. Like Kate said, the biggest challenge I think we had starting off was our communication and being able to like kind of just stay organized and have a solid plan of what everyone was expected to do and what everyone was willing to contribute. But now I think we are really moving forward really well, now that we have a very solid, organized plan, and that we all know like kind of the amount of work we're willing to put into the podcast.
Yeah, big shout out to Harrison. If you want to thank, you know, one of three of us, you have to thank Harrison first.
We would not be here without Harrison.
He's done research. He's figured out how to edit correctly, and find out the quirks of editing out audio and all that stuff, and bring it all into one spot. And it's impressive. There's times where I just feel bad. We're like, I feel bad.
Like, Frank, can we help, man?
I'm showing up, just giving you my spit and then leaving. You know.
Well, thanks, guys. I think a big part of it has just been that we're super good friends. Like, Kate and I, like we said, we went to high school together, and so did Kelton, and we always hung out with each other all the time. I mean, Kate and I, we met our wives
ate lunch a lot
at the same day, at the same place.
Nice.
Like, that's a sweet story for another day. But, like, it was always first and foremost, like, when we'd go to Kate's house, it was always, like, first and foremost, like, I'm going to hang out with my two friends. Like, you know, and, like, that's what it was. Like, I'm going to go watch a movie with my buds, and then I'm going to record a podcast afterwards. So, the podcast was always, like, a secondary thought. Like, we'd start the movie, we'd laugh at it, and then, like, for, 30 minutes between watching the movie and recording the podcast, we'd just, share memes with each other, watch stupid videos, and just, laugh our heads off and be total idiots, and just have a ton of fun. And then we'd record a podcast. And so, it was never bad because we were just three friends trying to figure it out. But, now as we've been quarantined and I haven't had a chance to hang out with them, and it's way different because we watch the movie on our own and then we talk over Skype. It's like been a good transition where like we got like a really good foundation built with the friendship, and now it's like, all right, like let's take what's